Then the next thing about NADCO is there are provisions there in which you cannot implement without going to a referendum. And yet, the bar, everybody knows the mood in the country today. Raila and Ruto will be lucky to get 25% in a referendum. And they would know it. Everybody knows that. So the question is, with that knowledge that the referendum will not go through, yet there are provisions that can only be passed through a referendum, what are they likely to do? But to me, the bigger possibility is they may want to play around with things along the lines of what we call the National Accord, that they can open some space within the Constitution in the manner in which we open space. I know it was the old Constitution, but they opened space in that Constitution and plugged in the National Accord. I'm happy to be here. The topic is exciting. It is what is happening in this country. Maybe just in a second or two to say that there's nothing wrong with the mergers because they are a product of our history. You know where we came from, where we started, the first political parties and how KADU folded and all those kind of things. Along the line, we have had the law. So this is a product of the Constitution. Some people are faulting the Constitution for making coalitions and mergers part and parcel of our politics. And that the same coalitions and mergers are a compromise on democracy. The law, of course, demands the 50% plus one, which you can't garner if you are from one region. It requires the 25% in at least half of the counties. And then there's the Political Parties Act that then sets in motion the infrastructure you can use to do the same. So mergers are here with us. But there's another third important reason why the mergers, corporations, call them what you want to call them, is about politics. Politics is about power. And the power to politicians is everything. So if you want to understand what Raila is doing with Ruto, it's politics. It's about power. And power is not a very sweet game. It's a game of elbows. And when I hear my friend PLO saying that those occupying the space and have done so like Raila for a long time should yield the space, then he's also wrong. Because power, you get it. Nobody gives you power. So the young men of this country and alternative leaders in this country, they must go for the space. They must look for power. I'm sure if we were to get at a very highly philosophical and intellectual level, then it will bring issues, power for what? You know, what is the good of, what is in power if you are not helping people? That is at that high level. But if we stick to the low level politics that we practice everywhere in the world, then politics is about power. Raila and Ruto are playing a game of power. They want to maintain power. They want to have the power. Those on the other side of the river should find a way of tossing these two guys into the river, and then they get the power. We would be lucky as Kenyans if those who get power after Raila and Ruto will get that power to exercise it in the good and interest of the people. But for now, some of us are a little worried. We are not seeing people who seem to understand the game of power, who seem to know that Raila and Ruto are doing what any serious politician will do to get power and to maintain power. So I will urge my friend Mother Karua and the other people to organize themselves to get the power. The people will be behind them, but the people must be mobilized. In our context, the people must be excited. We must recreate the 202 moment where we create a movement to sweep Raila and Ruto out of power.
Are we likely to have a referendum? The question of budget implication also come to bear. Do we have the money for a referendum? Yeah, almost 8 billion shillings we're talking about. And since that particular figure was quoted, We have inflation that has risen now to 3.5. I mean, it is a big blip. And again, if we shake into place the Prime Minister's office, the question would be again, where is the budget for that office? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Deba. I don't think money will be a problem. First of all, generally, politics is expensive. You can't have politics without spending money. And for politicians, when they want something, the money will be found. They will not find money to pay doctors and nurses and teachers like me. But when they want a referendum for themselves, the money will be found. So money is not a problem. The problem with the NADCO, as I see it, first of all, it contains contradictory provisions if you look at our constitution. And I don't even want to go there because they are glaring and sticking out. Like having leader of opposition in a presidential system. You know, that is preserve of parliamentary systems. And a host of other provisions that don't quite make sense within the context of our presidential system. Then the next thing about NADCO is there are provisions there in which you cannot implement without going to a referendum. And yet, the bar, everybody knows the mood in the country today. Raila and Ruto will be lucky to get 25% in a referendum. And they would know it. Everybody knows that. So the question is, with that knowledge that the referendum will not go through, yet there are provisions that can only be passed through a referendum, what are they likely to do? And I would have wished Mother to be here, then she would have engaged on this issue.
One will again say, I'm sorry to butt in, that is purely speculative. You don't have any confirmable facts and figures for you to say that.
To say what?
To give us if they go to referendum, they will not even get Ghana to.
Man, we live in this country, my friend. What are you talking about? Don't behave like a scientist who says come with measurement tools. We know it. We live in this country. The mood in this country today is that if you brought a referendum, where will you go with the referendum today?
I would say 20%.
They can't get 30%. Let's just agree there. So
I said 20.
25, I don't think they'll go beyond the 25. So the question is, with that in mind, and they want this referendum, can they pass the law in parliament like Mother Karua may be suspecting, and then say to hell, call our bluff? That is a possibility. But to me, the bigger possibility is they may want to play around with things along the lines of what we call the National Accord. That they can open some space within the Constitution. In the manner in which we open space, I know it was the old Constitution, but they opened space in that Constitution and plugged in the National Accord. These guys don't put it beyond them, either to pass these things in Parliament or to borrow from the National Accord of 2008 and they plug the entire, NADCO report into a constitution, because they know it can't go. And that to me is the challenge. That to me is the danger. That to me is what Kenyans should be prepared for, should be on the lookout for, because then we will have opened an entirely new chapter in our country. We have lived with impunity, but this will be impunity at a scale. If allowed to go on, we will have no country in the future. Thank you.